This week on Making IT Easy, how to use the internet to get dining out deals. Using technology when ordering food at a restaurant. Dining out, how can tech help? And the apps of the day will be DoorDash and Uber Eats. Welcome, James. James,
Good
how
afternoon.
Are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself? Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you very much for joining us, seeing as Tony is on a jaunt doing some other stuff today and can't join us.
Is he just taking it easy?
He is absolutely not on holiday. He's doing other work today.
Excellent.
Because we went to every Saturday, of course, he wasn't able to join us for this particular one.
I think it's just a cheap excuse myself, but there we go.
Maybe so. Okay, so we've got some interesting stuff coming up on the show today, and I'm excited, of course, because it's about dining out and restaurant eating, which is one of my favourite things. Mm-hmm. Yes.
We went to a very nice place last night for dinner.
We did indeed.
Nottingham. It was a Vietnamese place.
Yeah. It was quite loud, wasn't it? We were actually talking about the ambiance, and
Yes.
It was a little bit of a challenge at times. But nonetheless, it was lovely and good food.
Indeed.
Today we're going to talk about how we can find some specials and how we can get some restaurant food delivered to us and some things around that.
That'll be exciting.
It should be fun. We also, seeing as the cat's away and the mouse will play, I thought our theme for today in terms of music is going to be Fire and the Devil. So,
Yeehaw.
yeah, that's right. I never quite know if Tony's going to approve of my playlist or not, but he's not here, so he can be disapproving from somewhere else, and he can send us a text in the middle of the other work that he's doing. So we're going to start with "You're the Devil in Disguise" by Elvis.
Okay.
You look like an angel, walk like an angel, talk like an angel, but I got wise. You're the devil in disguise, oh yes you are, devil in disguise. You fool me with your kisses, you cheated and you schemed. Heaven knows how you lied to me. It's not the way you seem. You look like an angel, walk like an angel, talk like an angel, but I got wise. You're the devil in disguise, oh yes you are, devil in disguise. I thought that I was in heaven, but I was sure surprised. Heaven help me, I didn't see the devil in your eyes. You look like an angel, walk like an angel, talk like an angel, but I got wise. You're the devil in disguise, oh yes you are, devil in disguise. You're the devil in disguise, oh yes you are, devil in disguise. Yes you are, devil in disguise, oh yes you are, devil in disguise, oh yes you are, devil in disguise.
107.3 HFM thanks everyone for listening to Community Radio. We really value your support. The management of Heritage FM Inc. advises our listeners that the views expressed by announcers are their own and not necessarily the views of the management and members of the association.
Always good to put that in there, especially when James and I are on the radio.
I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about.
No, not at all. I've got one of these pesky microphones that's actually trying to decide where it wants to sit, and I want it somewhere else, and it wants to be where it wants to be.
Damn it.
I know, never mind.
Technology is supposed to work for us, not against us.
Indeed it is. James,
Yes.
tips and tricks we were going to do one of Tony's fancy tips and tricks, but seeing as it's us on here and we don't have his level of ability to transfer between Android phone and mobile phone and a thing, I thought we would focus on the way that we source specials when we're actually looking for restaurants. You know, I know that you're on a budget.
Yep.
I'm on a bit of a budget, and
I think everybody is these days.
That's right.
We were chatting, going back to the discussion about our restaurant last night. I think everybody's feeling the pinch financially, so everybody's looking around to get the best deals, and it's not necessarily always about where it's the cheapest place to go as it is the best place to go for your budget, and that's what we're trying to look at, I think.
Yeah, that's right. So when I'm looking for a restaurant to go out to, I'm often trying to figure out what cuisine I want. Yeah. But then once I've actually established the cuisine, I like to use technology to see if I can find myself some sort of deal, some sort of special, something that's around the area.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to sort of chat about and talk about how you do it and how I do it and how similar they are. One of the first things I tend to do these days is to go to Google Maps and actually have a look around Google Maps.
Yeah.
Did you know that Google Maps actually allows you to, if you're actually looking for a restaurant, it allows you to select what cuisine you're looking for and also the rating of the restaurant?
I didn't.
No, neither did I until I was actually doing the research for this show the other day. So I found in the past trying to find out, where my local restaurant is or the area that I'm going to. So let's say I'm going to Armidale and I'm looking for somewhere great to eat. I'll actually, Google Map search on Armidale.
There's usually a what's nearby thing, and you can choose a couple of the options that they have. So restaurants and garages, servos, shopping, etc., and things like that. Yep. So that's one of the good things about using Google, and you can approach that from both the Android and the Apple platform, of course.
Exactly, that's right. And then once I've narrowed it down to a couple of restaurants I might be interested in, I can actually go straight from my Google Maps to click on the restaurant to actually have a look at their actual site.
Yes.
Now, whether it's their Facebook page or their website, and at that point I can usually find out what sort of specials they're running. Are they a pub that's going to do a Tuesday special palmy, or do they have something special on that I can actually get as a bit of a deal before I go there? So that's one of the
tricks.
Yeah, one of the ways that I try and do that. The other way that I try and get specials is using some of the apps or the websites like Groupon and Scoopon and Kudo and places like that. So if I'm not particularly fussed where I'm going to be going to a restaurant, I can actually hop onto one of those sites. You need to log in and become a member, but it's all free. And then they will list places where there's discounts, and you can often get like 2-for-1 meals or 25% off the table and that sort of thing. And then I tend to narrow it down based on, from there, what my cuisine is and whereabouts I want to go, and of course what my budget is.
Yep. I can only agree with you from there. I mean, all these.
That's a nice change.
I don't know what you're talking about. These places like Scoopon and where's that?
Groupon and
Groupon,
Kudo,
all these things, they're great, and I've used them. I don't use them as much here in Australia, but certainly when I've travelled. So my folks live in the UK, and my brother's in New Zealand. I'm off to New Zealand next week, as you know.
You are, yes.
So
exciting.
It will be because I'm often going to a territory where I don't know what's local. You'll say, right, well, I fancy eating, I don't know, French tonight. Where can I go? It's a French restaurant that isn't going to charge me like a wounded bull and gives me a product which is good and potentially has these offers. Yeah. So it's really useful having internet and the World Wide Web, which allows us to make those informed choices.
And I think reviews are really important these days.
Yes.
If you're going to a new restaurant. In the old days, like when you go to Bali, you kind of walk past and go, that's got a lot of people in it, so that's probably going to be a good place to go. But the online version of having reviews and seeing how many other people have liked it or not, keeping in mind, of course, that the more vocal people, or the more disappointing your experience, the more vocal you're likely to be online.
Yeah, that's true. There's also been this resurgence recently where reviewers who have put negative reviews in against a restaurant have been sued for it.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Okay, I shouldn't find that surprising.
Is it libel? I think it's libel when you're imposing some sort of negativity on somebody in writing.
Right.
But there's been a few instances now where a service provider has had a negative review, and because they took umbrage at this, they sued the person.
Wow.
And actually succeeded.
Okay, well, there you go. Make sure
stupid.
if you've got a good reason for why you're putting up a negative review. Although I find it very helpful to have that option of putting a negative review up.
I think so.
I was in a dress shop with a client of mine the other day, and she had a particularly negative experience. And rather than saying anything there, I went back to my Facebook, which has got like a local sort of area group on it, and I just posted I was actually a bit disappointed. And I was actually a bit surprised by how widely that actually got picked up by the people who are in the local area. Not only by other people who are potential customers, but also by staff from the store. So clearly it would have gone back to the manager. And I was pretty delicate about, my constructive criticism of what I thought had happened. But it's a really good way to get feedback back.
I've had a similar experience where I tried to get in touch with people via their own website and got nothing. It just got ghosted on their own website. But as soon as it goes to social media, somebody was there, and this was like at dark o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And so it was. There's this response which came back pretty soon, like 15 minutes later, saying, "We're sorry that you had a negative experience at our service.
Yes.
What can we do to possibly remedy the situation?" And they didn't do anything. It was just lip service, but
Okay, I'll mention Urban List at this point, because Urban List is a good site to go to actually get comparisons of different restaurants. But let's go to a couple of songs, because I want to get in.
What's the next one?
We're going to listen to Ring of Fire. This is featuring Avi Kaplan. This is a cappella group that I like very much, called Home Free. You know that I like him because he's got the guy with a really deep voice in it. And then after that, we're going to go to Baby I'm Burning by Dolly Parton. So we're mixing it up a bit today.
Love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. And bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, the ring of fire. The taste of love is sweet when hearts like ours meet. And I fell for you like a child. Whoa, the fire went wild. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, the ring of fire. Yeah, love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, the ring of fire, the ring of fire, the ring of fire. 107.3.
Station sponsor Reeds Remotes are a family-owned and run business. They offer a one-stop shop to most remotes and keys, stocking WA's largest range of replacement garage and gate remotes and batteries to fit all makes and models. Replacement keys from spare keys to house keys, flip keys and smart proximity keys. They are fully licensed to cut and program spare car keys. Located East Vic Park, you can find them online or in store. Head to reedsremotes.com.au. Station sponsor.
MRB 8165.
Need a plumber? AHM Plumbing and Gas are a locally owned and operated company that will take care of all your plumbing needs, from tap servicing to hot water unit replacement or clearing blocked drains. AHM Plumbing and Gas have 30 plus years experience and will get the job done on time at the right price. Follow us on Facebook for monthly discounts and specials. Your local experts. AHM Plumbing and Gas. 0413 191 034. PL 6754 station sponsor.
This is our news segment. This is going to be talking about the news, and we have a new guest in the station. Baz is joining us. Hello, Baz.
Hi,
Ooh.
how you going?
Excellent way to test if the microphone works. Just wait until you're here and we actually just test it and see how we go. Okay, you talking into yours, James? You're have to talk. Yeah, you're really low. You need to go more close to the microphone. It's probably the microphone.
Is that better?
No, not really.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so we'll just talk to Baz. That'll be fine. Good grief.
I'm just supernumerary anyway.
Yeah, there we go. No, I can hear you now. That's it. We've got you. So interesting in the news, we're talking about restaurants, and I came across an interesting news article which has squidged me out a little bit, but we're going to talk about it anyway, and that is the new concept of cultivated meat. Have you heard of cultivated meat, Baz?
No, I haven't actually.
Yeah, so what they're doing is they're taking cells from animals, muscle cells from animals, they're growing them in effectively in a lab, and then they're using that to create real meat. And they've just done some a survey of chefs in America, which is actually up your alley, as it happens, and they found that 86% of chefs were ready to put cultivated meat on the menu. Which I found astonishing. Now, apparently in the US, the regulatory approval for cultivated meat is going to come through in 2024, and they predict that by 2040, 30% of the world's meat consumption will be cultivated. So we're talking about massive numbers here. This isn't just a fad, this is a huge thing. So let me just read this out, because they can probably do it better justice than I can. Cultivated meat is a form of cellular agriculture that uses animal cells to create real meat without the need for animals to be raised and slaughtered. The technology involves culturing animal muscle cells in a laboratory environment, allowing them to multiply and become muscle tissue. This process can then be used to create real meat products like hamburgers, nuggets and sausages. The potential benefits, of course, are huge. It could drastically reduce the environmental impacts with animal agriculture, so no more cows farting out there in the world. It eliminates the need to raise and slaughter animals, so of course it's massive in terms of improving animal welfare and reducing animal suffering. And reducing greenhouse emissions, water consumption and land use. It also potentially has a higher quality and better shelf life, and there's discussion around the idea of risk. So you have less risk of foodborne diseases, which is good, but there is increased risk of bacterial infections in the animal. So what do we think, people? Is this a good idea, or is this a terrible idea?
I wonder, I can see all the benefits of it. Having less cows being just raised and slaughtered just for product does seem like a highly intensive way to feed the world. It's huge on land use, it's huge on water use, it produces a lot of methane and gases which are unhelpful currently in this day and age. And so the benefits of having it are great, but I do wonder if the actual product you're going to get is going to be like a can of Spam, to put it bluntly. Whether you're just going to get a can of some sort of medium which doesn't have the fibrous texture that is part of the charm, if you like, of a traditional animal-based product.
Yeah, I think that's a risk for sure.
And I'm also wondering where they're going to get the necessary vitamins and minerals that we get
that we need from
like real
protein.
meat.
That are part of real meat, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the other issue I can see that could be challenging is we're essentially creating lab cows rather than, pasteurised cows out in the free range. So
you're concerned about the ethical issues of that, or the?
Well, yes, if we look at other issues, other things like perfumes and other soaps and medical scientists keeping laboratory animals and all of those ethical issues that we've seen over the past 20 plus years or more, and now all of a sudden we're going to have lab cows. Lab cows that don't have a consciousness potentially. So whether that is the distinction and makes it acceptable or not.
I've got it in my head that this. Have you seen those experiments where you put I think it's an acid with a base reagent and you get this sort of sulfur volcano coming out of a test tube? I'm sort of envisaging them growing this meat in that sort of way. Yeah, so I don't know if it's going to be like a cow sitting in a test tube, if you like.
Right. So where are they culturing the animal muscle in the first place?
I'm going to guess that they're going to take the animal, the starter culture from a real animal. So there's always going to be cattle out there. Yeah. But it's going to be reducing the actual need for so many cattle.
I mean, I can see that working, but there's always going to be some ethical challenges or risks there.
Absolutely. The survey that they did said that the restaurateurs that would be interested in actually putting their cultivated meat or the poultry up for the first time on restaurants, the main reason they said that they'd want to do something is knowing its health benefits. The second reason was for product quality and flavour. Third was knowing its animal welfare benefits. Fourth was demand from customers and audience to actually try it. Then the environmental benefits, and then easy access from the supplier, then positive media coverage, and then last one was referral from other chefs. So interesting the benefits that potential chefs saw with the products. Anyhow, let's move on to more music.
Okay.
I don't know what we're playing. Hang on. We're going to play, yes I do know, we're going to play Fire and Rain by James Taylor and then Fire from the Pointer Sisters. Clearly we're on a bit of a fire roll here. Who would have thought that I would do such a thing?
You're so hot.
Thank you.
Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. I walked out this morning and I wrote down this song. I just can't remember who to send it to. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. Won't you look down upon me, Jesus? You gotta help me make a stand. You just got to see me through another day. My body's aching and my time is at hand. I won't make it any other way. Oh, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. time, my back turned towards the sun. Lord knows when the cold wind blows, it'll turn your head around. Well, there's hours of time on the telephone line to talk about things to come. Sweet dreams and flying machines in pieces on the ground. Whoa, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you, baby, one more time again now. Thought I'd see you one more time again. There's just a few things coming my way this time around now. Thought I'd see you far away now.
I'm riding in your car. You turn on the radio. You're pulling me close. I just say no. I say I don't like it, but you know I'm a liar. 'Cause when we kiss, ooh, fire. Late at night, you're taking me home. You say you wanna stay. I say I wanna be alone. I say I don't love you, but you know I'm a liar. 'Cause when we kiss, ooh, fire. You had a hold on me right from the start, a grip so tight I couldn't tear it apart. My nerves all jumping, acting like a fool. Well, your kisses they burn, but my heart stays cool. Well, Romeo and Juliet, Samson and Delilah, baby, you can bet a love they couldn't deny. My words say split, but my words stay lie. 'Cause when we kiss, ooh, fire. Kisses like fire, burn me up with fire. I like what you're doing now, fire. Touching me with fire, touching me, burning me with fire. Take me home with fire. Kisses like
And welcome back, everybody.
107.3 HFM, the voice of your community, and we're back. And we're going to sneak in a announcement, James, if you've got one there. Well, we're still in the news, and I'm going to go back to our little news sound in a minute, but if you just want to sneak one of those in, that would be great.
Okie dokie. So the oak tree. The oak tree is more than 150 years old and is the inspiration for a new play by a local writer, Fiona Blakely. The oak tree follows the trials of Kate and Lenny, a couple who buy a farm in Byford, but are hindered by the ghost of a woman who lived there 90 years before and is determined to protect this tree. It's running between January the 13th, 14th, 20th, 21st. The tickets are $23 and $18 concession. Book at trybooking.com /Celam, that is CELAM. The venue is Byford Secondary College Performing Arts Centre, 57 Abernethy Road, Byford.
What made you choose that one?
It was sort of creative, and it has an expiry date of January the 12th.
This is the program that the lovely Courtney from the City of Gosnells is just getting in touch with us about. So we're going to try and get them on Drive with Simon Lee and onto the Magnificent Seven.
Fabulous.
Good job, James.
Well, that's just me being proactive and on the ball.
Okay, we're all laughing. Okay, so we're still in the news.
Yes.
And of course, Making IT Easy, we have been talking for weeks and weeks and weeks about the hacks, and today is no different. We wanted to give you a bit of an update. And the update wasn't so much where we're going to go from here or talking about Optus or Medibank, because we've kind of done that and everyone knows that there's some issues. But what I wanted to do is I decided to have a look and find out how many companies had actually been hacked in the last 12 months. And I know from the look on you guys' faces that it came as a bit of a surprise to you too.
Yeah.
There is some surprising names on that very long list that I scrolled through for quite some time. Anything in particular that caught you by surprise?
Oh, for me, yeah, absolutely. Bunnings. I mean, who would have thought?
Well, there's a good point, isn't it? And it makes perfect sense. I mean, they do receipts and everything now electronically, which means they're keeping our, some of our information.
Yes, phone numbers, emails.
And why would they think that they needed to have particularly high security to protect that necessarily?
It doesn't surprise me at all. I think Bunnings, because Bunnings are tied to the same firm who own Coles, which is Wesfarmers. So I think when you're approaching a company that has such a large customer base, that they need to be highly aware of where all this data is going, because they collect everything from us. I mean, I don't know if you remember a few weeks ago, there was a bit of a furore when they released that they were actually face scanning people walking into their stores.
No, I missed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that was Coles. It may have been Woolies.
Okay, one of them, doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're basically face scanning people to see who's coming into the stores, and I don't know if they're doing it from the perspective of trying to identify people who are going to be trying to lift stuff, which we spoke about overnight.
Yeah.
But they're scanning people now.
Well, of course, you being a professional photographer is all about it's entirely legal for them to do such a thing because it's a public place. So there's actually nothing stopping them legally from scanning people as they enter, is it?
It's not a public place. It's a private place.
Yeah, it'd be a private place.
The shopping centre?
Yeah, it's a private place.
Yeah, the actual building would be considered a private property.
Okay.
Owned by whoever owns that property.
So, but then the owner of the property can give permission, which in this case would be, Coles or Woolworths or their company. So it's legal what they're doing. It's just the ethical or moral or social outrage that they might have issues with.
Yeah, I'm a little bit over being monitored so closely. We were talking last night about how everybody now seems to have access to all aspects of our life. Our friend who we were visiting last night, he's a company director, and he's been setting up his company, and he's got to have so many levels of data which he hands over to people. His personal data, his bank accounts. And it's not just here, because it's an international company. He's got to do it in Singapore in his instance, and he's doing it in a few other places in Europe, and I won't go into that.
It does feel like you're repeating that information over and over and over again. Yes. You're constantly releasing it, aren't you? And
every time you create that new deposit of data, it's an elevation of the risk factor. So if you, Kay, were to say, I need your data because because it's Saturday morning and we're doing Making IT Easy, and then Baz turns around in a few minutes and say, I also need your data because I need your data because it's Sunday tomorrow. Suddenly you've multiplied up the risk of that data being disseminated and lost, because as we can quite clearly see, everybody is losing data. We pulled out about 10 names of entities who have lost data, and we're looking at NDIS, Optus clearly, Telstra recently, the Red Cross, Bunnings, the Woolies Reward Card, UWA, Uber, DoorDash, Medibank, the Smith family.
And that was just the ones that you pulled out of the very long list.
Those off that list.
Yeah. There are changes coming though. Again, we were last night talking about different ways that corporations are setting up sort of tagging so that you can actually have an identity tag.
What did our friend call it? It was basically a code, isn't it? It was a code which refers to your identity but doesn't actually take any identity with it.
Exactly. And I know that Google have just announced their Passkey program is now available. So, sorry, I turned Google on. So rather than having to sign in with a password each time, you actually have one sort of authenticator, and you're always using that one. And that's just been released in its version as well. So,
Australia Post has an ID app as well, that you can upload all your IDs on that particular app, so that when you are picking up a parcel or having to do something at Australia Post, you just open your app and say, well, I'm here's my stuff. I'm actually verified by you, so as not to actually have it in a physical form for when you're doing document. Interesting though, I did have to go to an Australia Post, and I didn't have my proper ID on me, and I had this app, and I'd showed it to the Australia Post worker, and they were surprised. They didn't know anything about it. So it's so, you know,
I'm not surprised that they're not surprised.
Yeah.
I look at those things at the moment and think that while they're a good idea, and on the face of it seems like a legitimate way to approach it, I still think that Australian businesses, because this is my experience at the moment, are still trying to collect data. It's not about your safety, it's about their business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the focus needs to change away from that, where they're not trying to pull our data and all the material they can from us, crop us, treat us like animals, if you like, and realise that we actually do need a certain degree of privacy, and that means that they shouldn't be cropping our data.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion.
Yes.
Theatrical eye rolls from over the desk there.
Yeah, well, yeah, They are coming up with solutions, and they just can't come fast enough at this point.
Yes.
So we're going to listen to music, because music makes everything better. So we're going to listen to Play With Fire by the Rolling Stones.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Voice
and then Smoke from a Distant Fire. Let's see how they go.
Smoky.
Well, you've got your diamond, and you've got your pretty clothes, and the chauffeur drives your car. You let everybody know, but don't play with me, 'cause you're playing with fire. Your mother, she's an heiress, owns a block in St. John's Wood, and your father'd be there with her if he only could. But don't play with me, 'cause you're playing with fire. 'cause you're playing with fire.
You left me here on your way to paradise. You pulled the rug right out from under my life. I know where you go to, I knew when you came home last night. 'Cause your eyes had a mist from the smoke of a distant fire. Lord, I was stumped, should have seen it come a long time ago. When I realized the reality gave me a role. If things are the same, then explain why your kiss is so cold. And that mist in your eyes feels like rain on the fire in my soul. There's lying and crying, upsetting and getting nowhere. It don't stack up, so slack up and pack up. I just don't care. Let the scream don't hit you on your way out. Don't you drown when your dreamboat runs up to the I'd just like to know, do you love him or just making time? By filling his glass with your fast-flowing bittersweet line. He'll waste the aftertaste when you come home late some night. With your eyes all amiss from the smoke of a distant fire. Girl, your eyes have a mist from the smoke of a distant fire. Your eyes have a mist from the smoke of a distant fire. Girl, your eyes have a mist from the smoke of a distant fire. Girl, your eyes have a mist from the smoke of a distant fire.
Does your business have a good web presence? Are you missing business opportunities by having an outdated web page? Did you know there are 6 important tips to boost your web personality? Let station sponsor Antonovich Design build or update your web page. Your website will be custom designed to suit your needs, working directly with our experienced designers. Get more leads and more conversions with a web page that is browser friendly and works on all devices. Call Antonovich Design on 0449 134 191.
Second Chance Community Hub at Unit 1, 227 Railway Ave, Kelmscott is all about connecting the community. We specialise in costumes and retro goods and run various classes and workshops. So if you would like to share your skills and run a class or learn new skills, give Second Chance Community Hub a call on 6290 7068 or find Second Chance Community Hub on Facebook. Station sponsor.
So, we are still in the news. There is more news to be had before we finish off our news segment for today. Microsoft has just released a report about the risk of cyber attacks to infrastructure in Australia. And the comment by Microsoft Australia's National Security Officer Mark Anderson was that the nation's critical infrastructure is severely vulnerable to attacks from cyber criminals. We know that cyber criminals are attacking and hacking all those companies that we just talked about before, but one of the things that he raised is that because a lot of our critical infrastructure is kind of old technology, that we are transitioning, they are transitioning to new technology and adding all these bits on. It's actually not as safe as it would have been if they had just started with a new product at the beginning. So there's this, gap in between. And it's going to be interesting how this happens, how we change this security, and how the cost of changing this security is going to happen. Because it's one thing for cyber criminals to, go after the Smith family and try and get some, information about them, or Medibank and try and get people's personal information. But if they can get hold of, the electricity and turn that off, or water and disconnect that, we're in a whole different ballgame when it comes to...
You have a Ukraine situation again, basically. At the moment, the Russians are bombing the hell out of Ukraine power supply, and power supply is what drives the water pumps to get water around places, and what causes the pumps that move the sewage from point A to point B. It's all powered by electricity. So by knocking that out, you knock out the critical infrastructure. It's called critical infrastructure for a reason.
Yeah, and the Americans have been held to ransom a couple of times, I think, with critical infrastructure being taken down. And as you've pointed out before, James, things like trucking, which we don't pay that much attention to, as a sticker on the back says, the country stops without trucks. Yeah. So it's surprising how many things are actually critical infrastructure that we don't necessarily recognise might be critical infrastructure. We can do without toilet paper, but that's not great, as we've seen. That can create a panic.
I've still got a garage full. What are you talking about?
Going back to without farmers, we don't eat.
Yeah.
Going back to that.
Yeah, that's right.
To some extent, I do think that Australia has itself to blame for some of this. Australia has not taken IT and modern connectivity seriously. Charles Brandis famously said, what do we need decent IT for? It's only kids playing computer games. And yet, just a few short years after that, and suddenly they weren't able to do the sensors because his rickety server system just died.
Yeah.
And we've seen the national broadband, NBS, fail essentially from what would have been a cracking, up-to-date 21st century solution to IT provision around the country, and it was just whittled down and turned into a thing which just bodged together and poorly done, and they're still trying to fix it, and so I don't think Australia has taken IT seriously.
Well, certainly some companies have. We were talking to somebody again last night. We obviously did a lot of talking.
Token was the word I was looking for.
You were, well done. And they were talking about, basically the bots, that go around, and as soon as there's the slightest change in people's behaviour, the bots will be onto it going, is this, phishing? Is it somebody trying to come into the organisation, some sort of hacking? So there are some companies that seem to have done it very well. But I guess what bothers me is the very, very top and the very, very bottom. Like you were talking before about Australia Post having, the information to, how comfortable am I with Australia Post being one of those people that's going to be so safe they can hold our data,
Yeah,
maybe I'm just being cynical, but that kind of makes me a bit squidgy. The Australian government,
don't trust them.
Google, Microsoft, maybe even Facebook, I'd be inclined to trust for that information, but who do we have within Australia that we're prepared to? As James raises his eyebrows when I mention Facebook. So it's that level that bothers me, but it's also the bottom level. It's a friend of mine's writing a book, and she put me in touch with a YouTube link that talks about how we should be supporting our local small businesses instead of supporting the big pharma and the big corporations and all that sort of thing. And I absolutely agree with her. I think that would change the world. But how do those little people protect their data? They don't have, the money for those little bots to go around and check everything. We run an IT business when we're not glamorising ourselves on the radio. And how do we keep that information safe? to that level that you might have Chinese or Russian or any other cyber gang trying to hit so heavily into what they're trying to accomplish. They have better resources than we do. They've probably, got very
More
significant
experience.
intent.
Yeah, it's. I wonder. I think smaller businesses are generally not as much of a target because they don't provide so many rewards for such an organisation to try and do this. If somebody wanted to hack into to your IT business, while it's important to you, how much data do you actually hold that's going to be worth the sort of effort that they're going to need to apply to get it?
Yeah, but you could argue how many records do they get from Medibank? That was one big hit and they actually got a lot of records, but they could do, 50, 100 small businesses and get the same number of records? So, I don't know.
And as you were
scale.
saying, if you've got a smaller company who doesn't have the resources to apply to it, then it's actually going to be easy to get into them as well.
Yeah. So maybe going back to that idea of tokens, maybe that idea can be extended down the track, and instead of keeping people's, even their signing up to your newsletter, maybe that would be kept somewhere else. And I don't know. There's got to be some creative solutions.
A dispersal information.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you sometimes see it where people have computers which are pools of all these resources, and they disconnect them. At the end of the day, if there's no connection to a computer or to a data resource, you can't get it.
Yeah.
Remotely.
And you kind of wonder,
yeah,
you've got to wonder whether a lever arch file, a room of lever arch files at Medibank would have been a better storage system than the way they kept them, and that's a bit of a worry.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, we're going to do my little outro because I can. James, did you have another little tidbit of information you would like to share with us?
Any particular thing, or is this an
Baz was going to read one, wasn't she? So we could.
Young Baz.
Do that.
All right. Let me do Women's Health and Wellbeing Services.
Yeah.
So they've partnered with WA Primary Health Alliance and can offer families 10 counselling sessions free of charge.
Really?
Yeah, which is great. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
And the goal of families therapy is to help family members identify how specific behaviours affect others, learn new way of relating to each other, resolve conflicts and open lines of communication between family members. So there is an eligibility criteria that's applied, but for more information, you need to give them a call. Shall I share their phone number?
Yes, please.
Excellent. 94902258, or visit them on whws.org.au.
James and I were talking about this in the car on the way over. Talking about, I was having a bit of a rant. Who would have thought? Yeah, James was telling me that somebody lit up one of the Mandurah giants.
So they
destroyed
destroyed
the
one of the Mandurah giants.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and I was having a bit of a rant about the person who did that. Presumably is.
We made assumptions, didn't we?
We did, yeah. I made the assumptions that they weren't aware of the value that was to other people, and that parenting or lack of parenting may have had a significant contribution. And I'm working on the assumption it was a young person that did it. Of course, that might not be true at all. And wondering whether or not we could focus people who are in that situation, rather than prison or community service, could be put into some sort of group therapy and parenting classes for the parents. And we had quite a vibrant, yes, discussion about how that would be received and how parents under that circumstance would feel about accepting some blame for the fact that somebody was out. Because what was the other one? Some of those scooters that you can actually take around were actually being vandalised and dropped in the ocean and that sort of thing. So again, it's a fairly senseless kind of coming from somebody who either doesn't have anything, so they've got nothing to lose and doesn't understand, or hasn't been in the position that they value those things that they actually have. The friend of mine who's writing this book refers to this concept of unconscious parenting, whereas children are just getting raised around people rather than actually focusing parenting on them. So that is kind of exactly what we were talking about, and that opportunity for people to go and learn more about how to parent and how to interact with teens and how to interact with other people within the family.
How to people?
Oh, there's a good concept. Yeah.
You know, I was going off on my little rant in this discussion about how we just do not have any responsibility now for anything. You know, it's basically a game now where you try and palm off any responsibility for anything that happens, and it just gets passed until it hits the last stop. You know, we as parents, people do not take responsibilities for their kids. I mean, I gave you the example that, you know, boys are typically given a ball and then kicked out of the door and said, kick that around, and you're not really training your boys how to grow up into good humans. You know, and we were talking about the relationship aspects of that. You know, boys don't really develop good emotional maturity,
intelligence.
There we go. Yep.
Until they're a bit older.
Whereas girls are traditionally and typically kept at home, and they're taught how to be girls, and mum will teach them, you know, to wear a nice frock, and you know how to put clothes on and things like this. And
We're
That's
frowning.
very gender stereotypical.
Well, it is. I mean, it is absolutely gender stereotypical. But
so, getting it back onto a technology track a little bit, how do you feel as adults in the community about how children spend time on technology? I personally feel that they need to learn technology.
Absolutely.
That's very important.
Who's going to program my video player?
That's right. But perhaps there needs to be a balance there. Is that something?
I think there has to be an absolute balance, because, you know, there's one thing, you know, relating to some pretending person or subject online, and then actually meeting that person in person, like in real life.
Is a very different experience.
We were talking about this last night as well.
Yeah. And, you know, being a good human, being able to converse and cope and be emotionally intelligent with people is quite a tool.
Do you think that starts online? Do you think there is a way that we could, you know, make assessments of how maybe younger people converse with each other online, and how that behaviour is, and then is that representative of how their behaviour is going to be later on down the track? Or do you think they're two very different things?
If you do that, when a child is brought into the world, they are very much a blank canvas. Everything they learn is from those people who are around them.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yep. So it is the parents' responsibility to bring those children up as emotionally intelligent, as responsible and productive members of society. And we must recognise that not everybody's values are the same. I don't necessarily mean that these values are better or worse, but they're not the same. But that people need to be brought up in a different way, and people have just passed off on responsibility now.
Do you think, or I think perhaps that young people are being very influenced by social media and their friends, and that upbringing is happening as much potentially by social media influences as it is parents' influences, particularly when you've got, you know, parents working and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that comes back to how we improve the online rapport and behaviour that people have.
I mean, you know, looking back to when I had a child and baby, and you know, even putting her in front of the TV for a little while so that I could, you know, get some housework done. It's the same sort of thing, you know. It's cyber babysitting, pretty much.
Square babysitter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's all about balance.
Yes, it is.
Okay. More music. We're going to Susie Quattro's Devilgate Drive.
Good gracious.
Yeah, I know.
It's a blast from the past.
And we're going to follow that.
About that concert
25
years ago. Ooh.
All right. I'm not sure if you're going to tell that
recently
online
done
or
a show
not.
in the States.
And she was here recently too.
Was she really?
Yeah.
Of course she was.
Yeah,
That's
it's
where I
by
heard
the
it.
sea.
Wow.
But,
Okay.
I used to fantasize about her with her leather.
Welcome to the dive. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3.
time your internet buffers, lags, or drops out, I want you to say it with me, Perth. We deserve better internet. Get your internet flying through the air quick as a flash. Pentanet is Perth's own private internet network, delivering super fast fixed wireless internet in selected coverage areas. With $0 standard install for a 12-month home or business fixed wireless plan, join Pentanet and make the switch to fast, reliable, local internet. Search Pentanet now.
Station sponsor.
107.3 HFM, the voice of your community, is proudly supported by
Nico's Kitchen,
Typhon Supplements, the Carlisle Hotel and Distillery.
Become a corporate member and support the voice of your community. Go to the webpage heritagefm.org for email details or to find out more.
In Martin, Rolling Stone and Caracup, we're the voice of your community. 107.3 HFM. In Gosnells, Armidale, Cannington and Serpentine, Jarradale, we're the voice of your community. 107.3 HFM.
Oh, I always hate it when I put him on there because he does my 107.3 for me and then I don't get to do it.
Oh.
But I do actually recall you needing to back the last song that we played.
I do, yes. Yeah, that was Devil Woman by Cliff Richard.
That's
Thank
right.
you
Harry
very
Webb.
much.
I was watching something about Harry Webb because he must be at least 150 now.
I'm sure at least he feels it.
Probably.
He seemed to be quite coherent when I heard him rabbiting on the other day.
Yeah.
He was talking about why he changed his name from Harry Webb to Cliff Richard.
Do you remember why it was?
Yes, he was offered a gig with his band at the time to do, it was basically a private show in some stately home in the UK, and he had to come up with a better name. And so they basically went down the pub, obviously had a few sherries, and came up with this name of Cliff Richard and his band at the time.
It's an unusual name to choose, you know? It doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's got any particular...
Yeah, it's interesting, you know,
It's
Harry Webb, whereas now we've got Harry Styles.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with Harry?
Well, I think
Is
in
it-
the
is it a
50s
time
and
thing?
60s,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
50s and 60s, which is when Cliff Richard started becoming popular, you know, the swinging 60s, it was, I think they were trying to move away from, you know, dad names, which were the Harrys at the time.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would have kept Webb because I reckon that would be great for marketing, you know. It's a great surname instead of Richard. Mind you, little Richard is, yeah. Anyway.
He did all right.
He did. So just in case you missed it, you're on Making IT Easy.
On 107.3 FM.
HFM, yes, the voice of your community. We are not so much making IT easy today as just having a bit of a chit-chat about technology in advance. And lovely having Baz with us. Thank you. So I hadn't actually realised how long you were on radio before.
Yes.
You've had an interesting career path.
Yes.
Yeah, you've done some interesting things.
I have.
Yeah.
Very, very diverse.
Not like James, who just seems to be focused on photography.
Well,
we're going to do
now.
photography. Yeah. No, you've actually had some interesting career choices as well, obviously. Just
Career choices, let's call them that, yeah.
Yeah, trying to apex towards photography now.
Yes.
And in the meantime, while we're doing that, we are still enjoying ourselves with going out to dinner and restaurants.
Very much so.
Yes.
When was your last restaurant outing?
Last night.
Ah.
Yes.
Would you recommend the place?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
Would you like to recommend the place?
I was about to. Yeah, so I found myself at the Duke of George in East Fremantle.
Okay.
And got to not only have dinner but see a show.
Who did you see?
The Sounds of Woodstock.
That sounds fun.
It was so 60s, 70s. It was brilliant.
Did people dress, or was it just normal, casual, Freo stuff?
There were a couple of people that were, you know, dressed in their funky 60s peace and loving outfits and dancing like they were back then too. But
Covered in mud, as per Woodstock?
No, but they certainly looked like they were free and loving.
Okay.
James was actually giggling over a Facebook post this morning, which was two Venn diagrams side by side.
Yes.
And one of them was, I think, labelled 1960s or 1970s. And a small part of the pie said photography. This is about photographers. And the rest of the pie said sex, drugs and rock and roll. And on the right-hand side, it was 2020. in the same small amount of pie said photography and the rest of it said social media.
Yeah. How times have changed.
Haven't they just?
Yeah, I still haven't been convinced that social media is the way forward. It's been sort of marketed and pushed as this great panacea and the great answer to all our questions, but it's not. I think ultimately we just need better social connection with actual people rather than through an interface.
Networking, networking
it's great.
is still
It's good fun, and we're feeding off each other's energy too, and which we're not going to get through a computer. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. So how did you choose that particular restaurant?
I've actually been there before. So I've seen a handful of gigs at the Duke of George, which is a very funky old stone type building. But yeah, normally I would look up Google and look for the best hidden gems.
Okay, so would you do a Google search, or would you go to a particular app, or would you look for reviews? Where would you head once you actually opened your
I would do
computer?
a Google search first,
okay,
and then I would end up at a place to there is a website called Hidden Gems.
Okay,
and also I've gone to Zomato or I can't think of the other.
Urban Spoon.
Yeah, Urban Spoon. That's the other one.
Yep.
And
there's actually now Quandu as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got it listed down here later on. Yeah, okay. So when you hop onto Google to do your search, would you be very specific about what you're searching for, or would you be more generic? Like, would you type in restaurants WA or restaurants Perth, or would you type something like Chinese quirky restaurant budget, whatever? How would you?
Yeah, I would be specific. So I would type in best small bars in Perth, or best romantic dining in Perth, or best quirky dining in Perth.
And then once you'd had some results, would you try and go directly to the website of the restaurant, or would you go to one of these apps and then go there?
I would first try and go to the actual website of that business.
And would you go to their website or their social media?
Depends what they have. If they've got both, I'll do both. Yeah.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but this is great. What would you be looking for when you get to their website or their social media? Are you looking for specials? Are you looking for their menu? Are you looking for reviews? Is it all of the above, or is it something? Or do you want pictures of their food or the ambiance?
Yeah, I'm actually looking for their menu. So I'm going to look to see what their menu's like, and I definitely want to see what the environment is, what kind of vibe they have in the restaurant, where it's located.
Yeah. So our tips and tricks earlier, I think that's before you sort of came on board, was focusing on specials, how we go online to find specials. And I think what we're sort of discussing here is that it's exactly the same process. It's just that finding specials is one particular feature we might be looking for, whereas, as you say, location, ambiance, budget, all that sort of thing is another one. And one of the things I've got here is checking out menus. So many menus, restaurants have websites that have their menus on them. Or you can use apps like Zomato or Quandu to find menus. I'm sure I've seen menus elsewhere, maybe TripAdvisor or something like that. And I find that particularly helpful if I'm going with somebody that's got particular dietary concerns, like heaven forbid I'm taking a vegan to dinner. You need to go and have a look and see what sort of options there are, because you can't take someone to dinner and then find out that the only option is, steak and veg, where they take the steak off the meal. So that's really helpful to actually see their full menu.
Yeah, and it's also really helpful to see the reviews. You want to see recent reviews, not ones from 6 months, a year ago.
And everything now is, you don't want anything pre-COVID, because it's a completely different beast now. What restaurants looked like before is not the same as now.
Yeah, definitely.
So where would you go for reviews? Anywhere in particular, or just you'd follow the feed and find it?
I would follow the feed and find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
TripAdvisor is one of the places I want to mention that does reviews very well, which we would have done overseas rather than locally, but it's good for local as well. So check out reviews. The internet is full of reviews and ratings. Start by checking out what other diners think. Yelp, we haven't mentioned, is another one, and Google, of course, itself offers comprehensive reviews.
Yeah, if you go on to do the search now and you're looking for restaurants, Google especially will come up with a list of restaurants that sort of vaguely hit your criteria, and you can click on those, and then it'll expand into the rest of the page and tell you more about that, which will give you Facebook links and their own website link and a whole bunch of other data, so that you can even call them, God forbid, and progress your inquiry that way.
Yeah, and there's also weekend notes too.
Yes.
Which is very helpful, and that's food critics or journalists that are actually physically going to these eating places and making their reviews themselves.
Have you guys left reviews for restaurants very often?
I have not.
Isn't that interesting how we rely on them so much and yet we tend to not?
Yeah.
The only times I've done it is when the restaurant has actually handed me a card as I'm leaving and said, can you place a review? And they've actually asked me, so I tend to do it. But that doesn't happen very often.
But I do I do word of mouth.
Yes.
That heavily,
Yes.
And also tagging. If we're on social media, we're going to be tagging where we are, what we're doing.
But not necessarily saying if you enjoyed it or not.
Oh,
sometimes.
Yes and no.
Is
you can tell it on your face.
Is that implied? If you're tagging them, that you are sort of suggesting that people go to them?
Yeah, potentially. And then, I don't do it anymore, but taking photos of the beautiful food that comes out and tagging that.
I've been in the experience of a waitress coming up and saying, is the food okay? And it's like, yes, why? She said, because you didn't take a photo first. Okay, didn't realise it was required.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Yeah.
And of course, social media, if you put out a bit of a thing to your friends going, I'm going to Armidale for dinner, where do you recommend? You'll get a mountain of responses usually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Local pages, where's the best to eat for kids, or where's, what's new in town, what's special.
And on Facebook now, they tend to have those groups about your local area.
Yes.
I know that there's a, Gosnell's Armidale one. I think there's an Armidale with no politics group. That's sort of thing, I think that's what it's called.
Wow.
So popping into those groups and actually seeing what people are talking about in the local area is always cool too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Should we do another one of those?
I'm ready to go.
You are ready. Okay. If you do that, I'll reward you with a song that you like next.
Oh, that's exciting. I better do it well. So everyday English classes are a great way for people to improve their English language skills and meet new people. Although the format mainly caters for migrants, anybody interested in gaining confidence in speaking English is welcome to attend. It's held on Thursdays between 10:30am and 11:30am at the City of Gosnell's Knowledge Centre, 2232 Albany Highway, Gosnells. Bookings are not required. For further information, visit the city's website, www.gosnells.wa.gov.au.
Did you do the www?
I did. I was just thinking as you said that.
Tony's
Is he going to spank me?
Only if you're lucky. So we have the Charlie Daniels Band with The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Oh, I like this tune.
The devil went down to Georgia, he was looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind because he was way behind and he was willing to make a deal. When he came across this young man sewing on a fiddle and playing it hot, and the devil jumped up on a hickory stump and said, boy, let me tell you what. I guess you didn't know it, but I'm a fiddle player too. And if you'd care to take a dare, I'll make a bet with you. Now you play pretty good fiddle, boy, but give the devil his due. I bet a fiddle of gold against your soul, cause I think I'm better than you. The boy said, my name's Johnny, and it might be a sin, but I'll take your bet, you're gonna regret, cause I'm the best as ever been. Johnny, rosin up your bow and play your fiddle hard, cause hell's broke loose in Georgia and the devil deals the cards. And if you win, you get this shiny fiddle made of gold, but if you lose, the devil gets your soul. Opened up his case and he said, I'll start this show, and fire flew from his fingertips as he rosined up his bow, and he pulled the bow across the strings and it made an evil hiss, and then a band of demons joined in and it sounded something like this. When the devil finished, Johnny said, well, you're pretty good, old son, but sit down in that chair right there and let me show you how it's done. Fire on the mountain, run, boys, run. The devil's in the house of the rising sun. Chicken in the bread pan, picking out dough. Granny, does your dog bite? No child knows. The devil bowed his head because he knew that he'd been beat, and he laid that golden fiddle on the ground at Johnny's feet. Johnny said, devil, just come on back if you ever want to try again. I done told you once, you son of a bitch, I'm the best there's ever been. He played Fire on the Mountain, run, boys, run. Devil's in the house of the rising sun. The chicken in the bread pan, picking out dough. Granny, will your dog bite? No child knows.
Well, I make my rounds of the country churches. I'm playing my guitar for free. My repertoire is 190 songs for God's glory. And I'm picking to be the devil, and you know he's on my tail. But the Lord's in my fingers, and he won't let me fail. Worn out Chevy and the beat of Martin is all I'll ever own. My worthless life is dedicated now to bringing God's children home. So now I'm picking to be the devil, and you know he's on my tail. But the Lord's in my fingers, and he won't let me fail. That's yours.
is in my finger.
He won't let me.
I hope that brought a smile to your face. That was Pickin' to Meet the Devil by the Pure Prairie League, which followed The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
They don't make them like that anymore, do they?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So you're here with HFM 107.3, making IT easy, with music from the 50s through to the 70s, and don't tell me I didn't give you some variety today. So, we are just coming on 1:30. I have got a Twitter post past my...
A tweet?
A tweet. I have a tweet.
Is
I
what
have
the
a
young
tweet.
people call it?
I do. Close to 50 people have reported symptoms and 17 have received medical attention after eating potentially contaminated spinach. They are apparently having hallucinations.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends who are going to be going out to get spinach. I have friends who are going to be throwing out the spinach they have in the fridge.
Have they got the devil's lettuce in that mix?
You can decide which one of them you're going to be. No, don't do it. Don't go and get a hallucination from spinach.
Interesting.
It amused
Yeah, that was
me.
Costco, wasn't it? I believe.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
okay. You heard it earlier.
Yes, it came
It
out,
wasn't.
or I was listening to about it yesterday. So it's a particular batch of a Costco spinach.
Okay. I can't see.
And I think it was mostly over east, and a handful of people have reported these symptoms.
Right. Well, there you go.
But,
Coles is actually recalling it, so it's
okay.
obviously in Coles as well.
Okay.
Yep. Anyway, that's our tweet for the day. Tony didn't know we had that segment. Baz, you were talking about, or we were talking earlier about Groupons and Scoop-ons and
Yes.
Kudo, and James didn't show the same enthusiasm you did. So you have had some success with them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah, great success.
Do you know what restaurant you're going to go, or you just look at restaurants and then just pick something? Some of the deals on those are pretty fabulous, in my experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm mostly looking for the deals, and then my secondary is, the location and what restaurant is holding that particular deal.
Yeah.
For me to actually go, yes, that's really exciting. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah. Many years ago, my sister and I had the entertainment book, which it's still available. There's an online version, and you need to pay to buy the entertainment book, but it usually is money that's going to a good cause or a charity. And we were both at the time working in the city, and every day for lunch we would be going out to all these amazing restaurants on this 2-for-1 deal. We'd drink water, we'd have the meal, and have really fancy meals for like $15 each. Back then it was amazing.
Yeah.
So
there's still deals like that, to get your one drink, or one wine, or bubbles, or beer to go with your meal. That's still offered.
Yeah, okay. I tend to see the 2-for-1s or the 25% off a table of people, or that sort of thing. So they're good stuff.
Very good.
We're going to talk about booking a table online. Now, I haven't done that a lot. I've only done it a couple of times, although both times with success. It's not the sort of thing that I automatically think of. Like, James, being old, probably ring them.
Oi.
Well,
Would you ring them, or would you book them
No,
online?
I'd send somebody with a cleft stick.
I've done both. So most recently, I've booked a table for
online.
Online for next week,
right?
Thursday, and then the numbers substantially increased. So I've had to ring them and go, oh my gosh,
can you change it?
It's doubled.
Good.
And they're like, oh no, we're booked. We're fully booked. Oh
Right.
no, please, you must find us that table. So we've had a bit of juggling. So it works both ways.
Yeah, it does. So if you want to book, use online table booking, some restaurants obviously have their own online.
It is increasingly common
on the
isn't
website.
it?
Yes.
Yep.
You often can't book the same day online, although I think sometimes you can, but that's a bit of an issue. So just be careful how far in advance you're trying to do it. Quandu and Open Table both have online booking facilities, and of course they have all the reviews and those things we were talking about before. And the other thing that James hit on earlier is Facebook. They are surprisingly prompt with responding to social media messages. So there's nothing wrong with actually hopping on your Facebook page of your restaurant and saying, hey, do you have space for a table for 3 at 6 or whatever, and getting a response that way. So, yeah, some handy-dandy ways to book online if you're trying to make sure that you can get a seat, especially in these days where restaurants can get very full very fast. The other thing that I want to touch on today is using the QR codes for ordering at the table. I'll do a shout out for Tim, who's our new elected chairman of HFM 107.3, who was staring at the QR codes with some dismay when we had our our annual general meeting down at the local. They're actually kind of cool. I think they've come in mostly because of COVID, but now service staff are finding that it's easier to actually book, to have less waitressing or wait pursing at the table. So you guys presumably have experienced it. Do you want to walk us through how you would usually do that process with a QR code?
Sure. I personally am not a huge fan of the QR codes at the table because if I'm going to go out to eat, I'm actually looking for that personal interaction with a waiter or something like that. And while the business itself would and does describe the QR coding on the table as a way of streamlining business and making it more efficient, which today, because everybody's feeling the pinch, is important. I feel that it does deny the customer some of that interaction which they might otherwise have. However, having said that, you're not standing there trying to decide what you want when the waiter's sitting there very politely and patiently twiddling their pencil at the end of your table. So it does mean that you can then say, yes, I'm definitely going to go for the chicken parmesan or the vegan option, which we won't even talk about. And it makes it simpler. But it becomes difficult to address things like specials because you've got to then update the specials onto the website to make them accessible. And we had the instance at this particular venue where there were specials on the board, but we couldn't order them, and they wouldn't take the order across the bar because they weren't set up to do that. So you're sort of stuffed.
I think this comes down to providing the option. I think there's very good times when you get to a venue and you want to just use the QR code. It's quick, it's easy. If you're talking to somebody, you can get the ordering out of the way. You can pay for yourself without an expectation that you're going to have to split the bill or you're going to pay for the other person because you're doing it on your own device. But you still need to have that option that, you can, give a bit of a signal to a waiter that they come over and help you. So, I think... hopefully most places, and maybe that's a review that we can put up about that particular venue and say we like the food but we don't like that the QR code was a requirement rather than an option.
And they were quite offish about the way they were not going to interact with us.
Yeah, that's very true. Interestingly, as we read through the notes that I made, some places you will have to pay using your device, so you're paying by credit card or some other method like Google Pay or PayPal or something else from your device. Some places still give you the facility to book your item but then go and pay for it at the counter. McDonald's is a good example, and McDonald's is actually a good example because you can put in your favourite order. So as you walk up or drive through, you can just click a couple of buttons and put your regular order through rather than having to scroll through and pick what it is that you want.
Via the app.
This is via the via the app rather than the QR code.
The other thing is that they're also obtaining information from us. So our phone numbers, our emails.
Very true.
Yes. Yep. I've had some experience with the QR code
What do you
menus.
like it?
I'm not sold. I have found it difficult to navigate the actual website that they're using, and also have found some of the items that are on their normal menu is not actually within the electronic version.
Okay, so basically there's a website integration issue.
I think so.
Yep. So those of you who are listening, who do want to give it a crack, because you might find yourself at a venue that requires it, or you might just want to go and give it a go. You take your smart device to whatever the venue is, and then you'll usually find on the table either in a bit of a disc stuck to the table, or on the menu, or near the menu board, or sometimes a little piece of card that's actually sitting on the desk, on the table. You'll actually have the QR code, and you can usually use your device's camera to actually just look at the code, and it will pop up with a little small icon in a bottom corner, which you click on, and that will take you to the website that you order from.
I think if you use an iPhone and use the camera, it will automatically scan a QR code, whereas if you have an Android device, you have to use a specific scanner, which then takes you to a link which you click, and it opens up into this menu, which you order from.
So my Android will actually automatically pull up the QR code.
Okay.
But some Androids don't, so you need to install a QR code reader,
I've got a
which
cheap
is a
one,
free.
obviously.
We've got a different one, and as Tony would know, each of the devices actually do things slightly differently.
Yep.
Once you're actually in that, then you just usually there's tabs across the top which will give you specials or meals or drinks. If you're going to somewhere like a pub, you can scroll through those and then scroll down to actually choose which items you want. It'll put it in the cart for you. When you finish, there'll be a button to take you to the cart to check out, and at that point you can remove items. You can go back and shop for more items. It might offer you extra items that you might have forgotten that you wanted, like you haven't got fries with that yet. And then when you check out, you will actually pay usually on your device, or it'll give you an option to go and pay at the counter by cash. And it's really as easy as that. Click the next button, and it will probably give you some sort of instruction that the order has gone through to the restaurant, and you sit there and wait for your food and drinks to appear at your table.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty clever technology.
Yes.
Certainly it was very useful during COVID when we wanted less contact with wait staff than we necessarily do now.
It's also really handy, if you're by yourself and you found this amazing table, you don't actually have to get up and risk losing that amazing table because you need to order something.
A very good point.
Yeah.
Hadn't actually considered that, but that's actually very good. Did we miss anything in that? I think we talked about the QR codes, scanning them, directed, credit card, paid for order.
Did we make it clear what the QR code actually looks like?
No.
We're sitting here blithely chatting about these things, but I'm sure there's going to be our listener out there is going to be talking and saying, what on earth is a QR code?
Can you explain that, James? Because you're a big fan of QR codes, aren't you?
I am a fan of QR codes. It looks like a randomised grid of squares. So it could be almost any size, but it's usually about a couple of inches square, and it's a random series of squares which provide a code which your scanner, your computer, or your telephone, your mobile device.
They're usually black and white, aren't they?
It's usually black and white. Because it's a higher contrast image from that. And it basically provides you an internet link which you can then follow through your device, and it will take you to wherever the QR code is pointing.
Yeah.
And by pointing, I mean it links you through to the website.
It almost looks like Space Invaders without the
It
legs.
does. It does indeed.
Yes. So it's a very pixelated image.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And QR codes is something worth talking about, because you use them on your photography, don't you? When you exhibit your art, you like to put a QR code as part of the didactic panel next to your artwork.
It means that you can certainly have the little panel next to the image or the work which says what it's called and when it was made and who made it, but that by having a QR code next to that information, your viewer, your visitor to your gallery and your exhibition can then click on it, and you can provide any data at all. You could provide an audio stream that they might want to listen to whilst they're looking at this thing. You can provide the history of it. You can provide...
You've actually provided a video, haven't you?
I've provided a video,
the masks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's possible. You can provide the making of, in terms of a series of pictures or a video or a much larger or more extensive written
description of the
body
work.
of the work.
And you can actually make QR codes yourself. I remember a year or so ago, when we were in the city, I actually did a walk through the city to have a look at the city art, and I actually created QR codes.
Yes.
So people basically had to find the next QR code, and that gave them a clue to get to the next QR code, and that gave them a clue. And I had them hung over trees and stuck on windows and inside a book inside Dimmicks. Yeah.
Hidden, God damn it.
Hidden. It was amazing.
Yes, you can easily get there's free online QR code generators, and you basically decide that you want somebody to email you. You can link to any electronic resource, so you can send somebody an email via a QR code. You can send them to a web destination, so a website. You can get them to go to YouTube if you wanted. We could link them back to the QR. We could link them back to the 103.7
107.3 even.
It even symbolises advertising. You know, if you're advertising business, just have this big, massive QR code.
Yeah, you're right.
Rather than having all kinds of information.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try and get a couple of last songs in because we're coming up to
Have we been
16
talking
minutes
too
to
much?
2. No, not at all, but I did want to get another couple of songs in. So this is Devil with a Blue Dress On by Mitch Ryder. Do you know the song?
Yes.
Is that a good yes?
Yes.
Excellent. I don't mind.
Look at my day. She come wearing a wig hat and shades of mess. Her high heel sneakers and an alligator hat. With a pearl and a diamond ring. Like the song fingers and everything. Devil with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Hey, I said now, devil with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. When I first did Chanel number 5, got to be the finest thing alive. Walk real cool, catching everybody's eye. Cats too nervous, they can't say hi. Not too skinny, not too fat. A real home digger and I like 'em like that. Devil with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Devil with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Good girl, I miss smiling. Sure like to party. Good girl, I miss smiling. Sure like to party. If you're rocking and you're rolling, your mama calling. From the early morning to the early night, she was money rocking at the house of the light. Good girl, I miss smiling. Sure like to party. Just take it easy. Your mama calling. Beep, beep, bop, bop, oh, oh, oh. But once again, here she comes. Wearing a wig hat, shades of legs, got her high heel sneakers and an alligator head. Wearing pearls and a diamond ring. Best sort of thing is better than everything. Devil with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Hey, say it now. Devil with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Devil with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Devil with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Devil with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Devil.
You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Too much love drives a man insane. You broke my will, but what a thrill. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. I let you love what I thought it was funny. You came along and now, honey, I've changed my mind. This love is fine. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Kisses me, baby. Feels good. Hold me, baby. Well, I want to love you like I love you should. You're fine, so kind. Got to tell this world that you're mine. I keep my nails down and I twiddle my thumb. I'm real nervous, but it sure is fun. Come on, baby, it drives me crazy. And it's just great balls of fire. Like I love is should. You're fine, so kind. Got to tell this world that you're mine. That you try to hear that I twiddle my thumb. Real nervous, but it sure is fun. Come on, baby, drive me crazy. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. We're making it easy. 107.3.
If you find yourself on the wrong side of the law, SJB Legal can help. Our experience and expertise in criminal law can help you make the most of an unfortunate situation. A strong solicitor-client relationship is a first step towards achieving a favourable outcome. We are proud of being a smaller firm capable of providing good old-fashioned service at more reasonable prices, because we don't incur the bigger overheads of many larger firms. If you are looking for solutions rather than arguments, call station sponsor SJB Legal on 9490 1660.
107.3 HFM, the voice of your community, is proudly supported by
Rockin' Burgers,
Christine Chapman Massage Therapy,
WA Exclusive Meats.
Become a corporate member and support the voice of your community. Go to the webpage heritagefm.org for email details or to find out more.
HFM 107.3, making IT easy with Baz and James.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
I really enjoyed Jerry Lee Lewis.
Good.
Yes.
Every Balls of Fire.
Yeah, there's been some good music you've chosen today.
Ah, thank you.
It's been fun.
Thank
actually.
you. Yeah, a bit of a bounce around the
like a bit
studio.
of a groove and a bit of thigh slapping there for a little while. It's been quite different. Yeah.
More Turkish wrestling jokes later.
I had no idea that Jerry Lee Lewis had a nickname.
The Killer.
The Killer.
Yeah.
We don't know how he's got that yet, do we?
No, we don't.
Uh-huh.
But yes, we did do a quick Google while that song was playing.
Yeah. Sad that
Because
we
he
lost
passed
him
away
this
recently,
year.
October.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bit of a shame. There's a lot of
One of the
people
greats.
dropping off the perch at the moment. Have you
There
noticed?
is. I think that happens a lot.
But
Just-
notable people rather than just us common or garden muggles.
We're coming up to the end of the show pretty fast, and I wanted to quickly touch on the app of the day. The two apps that we're going to talk about are actually fairly similar. So this is Uber Eats and DoorDash.
Yes.
Both of them serve the same kind of purpose. They deliver food or restaurant food to your door.
Yes.
Which is very, very cool in my humble opinion. Yes. Now, there's a number of reasons why people might want to use Uber Eats or DoorDash. It might be that you've got kids at home and you don't want to have to leave the house to get food brought in. You might have guests coming over unexpectedly. It might just be a treat and you don't feel like going out. You just don't have the spoons. And it can be very, very cost effective to actually have Uber Eats or DoorDash to your door these days. It used to be quite expensive before, and you have to watch it. I used DoorDash just recently because I went to visit my mum and I had a particular restaurant I wanted to order from, and I can't do it from where I live, but I can do it from where she lives because of the area, the zones. And unfortunately, she's in a lifestyle village and the delivery didn't get to our door. it got to somebody else's door, and I had to go driving looking for a number 4 on a different street to figure out where he'd left it, and then hop out of my car, go and get it, and hope nobody saw me picking it up, thinking that I was pinching it, taking it back to our place. So there are some hazards
and cons,
as you go. Yeah, that's right.
Were you not in your jammies?
Fortunately, I was not.
You had your pants on though.
I did. Good. So let's just talk about it. Kind of, if you were going to order from Uber Eats or Deliveroo, you would download the app onto whatever your smart device is, or
I think it's
onto
integrated
your
into
PC.
the Uber app already. So
if you're already using Uber delivery service, person
delivery. So the Uber app is obviously it's like ordering a taxi.
That's it.
It's the rideshare system. So they've expanded now, and they now offer a food delivery as part of that. It's a way of utilising another driver who's otherwise sitting around.
Actually, I Ubered my laptop. Tony actually put it into an Uber at one end and actually got it delivered to me at the other end. And I joked with the driver when I picked up the laptop. I said it had behaved itself, hadn't it? But the cost of me actually going back to go and pick it up, and in terms of the time and everything, it was cheaper to stick it in an Uber to get it to me.
I've had a delivery done the same way.
Yeah.
I needed some gold paint to paint a model with, and it was easier for me to get the gold paint delivered by Uber, or I think it was a taxi or something like that.
Yeah.
Than it was to
leave what you were doing
to go and spend probably about half an hour getting there, getting the thing off the shelf, and then coming back.
Mm-hmm. So. Other thing worth noting in terms of technology is you don't have to be the one sitting in the Uber. So if I want to get my mum picked up from her lifestyle village and delivered to me, perhaps not the right terminology, I can use my Uber app to actually have her collected and brought to me. And with these two apps, you can actually track the Uber as it's coming to you. So Uber Eats and DoorDash, you can actually watch the driver as he's on his way to come and deliver your food or deliver your human or your laptop to you.
Uber's always been really cool with that, where you can actually watch your car arriving.
Yeah.
So when you press the I want to go from A to B button on Uber and confirm all the details, you then get somebody responding to say, yes, we're going to pick you up, and then you see them, and you can just watch them trying to find you, and then driving past you, and then going up to the corner, and then reversing
turning around
back
and coming
back. So it's very cool that way.
It is very cool. So if you go into one of these apps and you've downloaded it onto your device, or as James says, it's an extension to your Uber, you can actually then go in and scroll through the restaurants that are available in your area and then choose which one. You can select it based on cuisine, and they actually have reviews on there as well, and it will usually tell you how long it's going to take for your food to arrive, and it's usually a bit of it usually takes a little while, so it might be like this is going to arrive between 45 and 60 minutes, so don't expect you to have it immediately at your door. And then once you've gone through the process of ordering your drinks and your accessories and all that sort of thing, it'll give you some questions to answer, like, do you want the delivery left at your door, or do you want them to hand it to you? You have the option of moving the little pin, which is the little icon that shows where they're going to deliver it to, and this was my mistake with my mum. You can actually move that so it sits right out the front of your house to check to make sure they're going to deliver it to the right place, because the DoorDash guy was saying he didn't actually know the address it was being delivered to. He followed the pin but didn't have an address to tell me what street he'd gone to.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that pin is really useful.
Important.
Yeah. And then once you've checked out and paid, again, online during using your credit card, which is relatively safe, going through either of these apps because the banks will kind of back it up, then you sit there and wait for the order to be processed and delivered to you.
There's one thing that bothers me about ordering through Uber Eats, and I'm not sure about DoorDash and whether they do the same thing, but you get an option before you actually get your meal delivered to tip your driver.
That is interesting, isn't it? Yes.
I don't know how well that driver's going to be until I get my food, and you want me to tip him now?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that bothers me.
I'm not going back to the menu ordering via QR codes a little bit, but you get it in this sort of instance as well, where you are trying to complete an order and they're always trying to offload these other options and trying to on-sell other stuff.
Yeah.
There's a well-known pizza company that does this all the time.
Yes.
All I want is a meat supreme. Give me a meat supreme in a box and make it ready for me. Do you want fries with that? Do you want to upsell? Do you want the garlic bread? Do you want the drinks? Do you want the 2-for-1 offer? No, just give me the goddamn pizza. That annoys me.
Yes, who'd have thought?
Yeah, quirky old entitled white men.
Anyway, we've only touched on that briefly, but DoorDash and Uber Eats, if you want to give that a crack and see if you can get food delivered to your door.
Yes.
Quickly, we need to run through a couple of things coming up. Next week on the Magnificent 7, which is Tuesday night from 7 until 9, we have Andrew and Amanda interviewing Noel O'Neill, who is our local, who was actually born in Cork, actually, but now lives here, and we're going to keep him. What's the word I'm looking for?
Chain him?
No. Thanks, James. When it's something that you... Adopt him. Thank you very much. So he's a movie, stage actor. He's an award-winning playwright. He's a lecturer and a teacher. Okay. So stay tuned for Magnificent 7, 7 o'clock on Tuesday night. Next time on Making IT Easy, which is next Saturday, is going to be our 24th of December. So we're going to be playing some Christmas-themed music. Tony is going to be back, changing the screen size on your phone or on your PC. The most eco-friendly smartphone. I'm interested.
Echo?
I think
is it a technology?
I think he's talking about, echoing, so it's hard to hear because of an echo. I think the musical...
Eco-friendly?
I
think it's echo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
interesting.
Yeah, so we'll all find out next week.
Okay.
Ways to keep in contact with friends. Our apps of the day are going to be Contacts on your phone and Be Real. Have you seen the Be Real app?
Yes.
Ooh, we're going to talk about that next time.
Oh, okay.
Musical theme will be Christmas. And if you are on your own, I will be with you. I'm actually going to be here doing Christmas music from 10:30 until 4:30 Christmas Day. So if you're on your own, then tune in and you'll have my dulcet tones to listen to. We can go through it together.
So we're going to be leaving a plate of mince pies under the desk with a glass of sherry for you, huh?
Oh, are you calling me fat?
I would never do such a thing. I quite like my life as it is.
I'm giggling about the fact he says under the table.
Yeah.
Well, we're not officially allowed to have food and drinks in the studio.
Oh, I see.
So we just have to sort of keep the powers that be happy.
Don't forget that we have Rock Aria coming up with the Frankenator and Friends from 3 till 6. So stay with us until then, and Fourth Dimension with Coops until 9 p.m. tonight. So that's what happens.
Sounds fabulous.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Baz, for joining us. It's been delightful. Thank you, James, for filling in for
That's
Toto.
all right. Well, your listener will be very pleased to have somebody who actually knows what the hell they're talking about next weekend.
It's nice to change things up. This has been a great show. It's been really
I
good.
feel I'm a little bit of a troglodyte, a little bit of a philistine when it comes to IT sometimes.
I think you probably would surprise yourself by how far advanced you are. But, each time I do this show and Tony tells me stuff, I'm learning. So it doesn't matter where we are on the spectrum of learning, there's always more IT to learn.
That's one of the things with IT,
true.
isn't it?
Yeah, I need to break down my resistant wall.
Your resistant wall?
Yeah.
That's
the resisting
technology. Yeah. Okay. That's a whole new show.
Yes.
So we're going to go out with a song called To Beat the Devil by Chris Christopherson. Do you know the song?
I know the Chris Christopherson.
It is an interesting song. I'm going to leave you with that.
Actor and performer.
Yes.
Yes. So interesting song.
Didn't he perform with Barbara Streisand? Something.
It was wintertime in Nashville.
Right. Play the tune.
You sure? Do I need to go back?
No,
We're going to keep on going from here.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure listening.
For a place to get myself out of the cold.
See you later.
Bye.
To warm the frozen feeling that was eating at my soul. Keep the chilly wind off of my guitar. My thirsty wanted whiskey, my hungry needed beans. But it'd been a month of payday since I'd heard that eagle scream. So with a stomach full of empty and a pocket full of dreams, I left my pride and stepped inside a bar. Actually, I guess you'd call it a tavern. Cigarette smoke to the ceiling, sawdust on the floor, friendly shadows. Saw that there was just one old man sitting at the bar. In the mirror I could see him checking me and my guitar. He turned and said, "Come up here, boy, show us what you are." I said, "I'm dry." He bought me a beer. He nodded at my guitar and said, "It's a tough life, ain't it?" I just looked at him. He said, "You ain't making any money, are you?" I said, "You've been reading my mail." He just smiled and said, "Let me see that guitar. I got something you ought to hear." Then he laid it on me. If you waste your time talking to the people who don't listen to the things that you are saying, who do you think's gonna hear? And if you should die explaining how the things that they complain about are things they could be changing, who do you think's gonna care? There were other lonely singers in a world turned deaf and blind, who were crucified for what they tried to show. Their voices have been scattered by the swirling winds of time, 'cause the truth remains that no one wants to know. Well, that old man was a stranger, but I'd heard his song before. Back when failure had me locked out on the wrong side of the door. When nothing stood behind me but my shadow on the floor. Lonesome was more than a state of mind. You see, the devil haunts a hungry man. If you don't want to join him, you gotta beat him. I ain't saying I beat the devil, but I drank his beer for nothing. Then I stole his song. And you still can hear me singing to people who don't listen to the things that I'm saying, playing someone's gonna hear. I guess I'll die explaining how the things that they complain about are things they could be changing, hoping someone's gonna care. I was born a lonely singer and I'm bound to die the same, but I gotta feed the hunger in my soul. If I never have a nickel, I will never die ashamed, 'cause I don't believe that no one wants to know.